Okay, I'll go ahead and get it started. Welcome to Acterra's third workshop in the Green at Home series. We covered induction cooking and heat pump water heaters in the past. Today we will be discussing solar rooftops and all the ways to electrify your home through solar rooftop panels. We are being joined today with Mike Balma from SunWork and later on a PG&E representative, Jessica Chancellor. Feel free to follow us on all our social medias. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Also, if you're interested in signing up for our newsletter, we are always sending out updates and events to better you and our community and all the ways to go green. My name is Brianna Duarte. I'm the Beneficial Electrification Fellow at Acterra. You can click next slide, Mike. And our guest speaker, Mike, he's with SunWork, a nonprofit organization. He will be speaking for the majority of the presentation. And then next slide, please. And afterwards, we'll be joined with Jessica, the PG&E representative. So thank you. And you can go ahead and take it away, Mike.
Thanks, Brianna. Just to get a little background on SunWork, our mission is to really help make solar more affordable and widespread with the help of trained volunteers. That's a real key aspect of what we do. We've trained several thousand volunteers over the last 13 years that we've been around. We've been able to expand down to the Central Coast and cover almost all of the Bay Area, except San Francisco and a few other exceptions that I'll mention. One of the keys is that we focus on people that have a low monthly electric bill. So these are the smaller type of systems for homeowners. And oftentimes contractors don't want to do these small systems because it's a tougher payback. You don't get the economies of scale. So that's the niche that SunWork is participating in to help expand the use of solar. And so the homeowners do need to pay for the cost of the system, but it's typically a third less than normal. Just in terms of the criteria, which is on our website, but also here briefly, it's if your average electric bill is $100 a month or less, then you'd qualify. There are some other roof type things, et cetera, but that's the biggest thing. To encourage EV usage, we exclude EV charging at home. And so we look at your bill before you got your electric vehicle. And then also to encourage an all-electric homes will go up to $140 per month on average. And also if you just add an electric heat pump hot water heater, will go up to $140. Again, to encourage the home electrification and improve the environment. The other area that we do installations is for nonprofits, churches, preschools. We did the Ecumenical Hunger project over in East Palo Alto, and other homeless shelters, et cetera. And as I said, the real key is that because we're a nonprofit and we have volunteers helping out, we're able to reduce the costs over commercial installation, and particularly for those small installations. So if we talk about solar, and I'm going to talk about solar overall, not just going with SunWork, but it's really important to think about why you are going solar. It may seem obvious to you, but then again, you ask your partner or the rest of your family and they say, oh gosh, I thought it was for a different reason. So everybody might just think, okay, why am I going solar? And one of the key reasons that comes up oftentimes is to save a little money. And that's actually in several different forms. Obviously, you're going to save on your utility bills, and we'll give a little bit of examples on that. But you also avoid the future utility price increases because basically you're getting you're saving on your electricity. And so every time your utility bill goes up or the utility increases the rates, you actually are saving more. So that's kind of a cool thing. You're almost prepaying for your electricity. The other thing that is oftentimes not thought of is it does increase your property value. So the moment you've got your system installed, it increases the value of your home. And studies have shown that homes actually in this area sell faster when they have solar. So a couple of reasons from a financial standpoint, but of course there are other reasons. Key among them is the environmental benefits. Obviously solar is a renewable energy and you're producing it on site. And so there are a lot of benefits in terms of reducing your carbon footprint. And these are sort of the main reasons, but there are actually a few other reasons, which particularly in Silicon Valley, technology interest. I mean, why not put semiconductors on your roof? Isn't that kind of cool? And so there are different choices that you can make as you go down the road to say, gosh, I like this cool feature, even though it's going to cost me a little bit more, maybe I'll go that way. And so again, the process of solar, you're going to have many choices. And it's good to understand why you are going solar, what's your highest priority, and what your family's priorities are in the process. There's a sort of a final reason a lot of people are thinking about solar in these days, and that's backup power. And I put a question mark because just putting up solar doesn't give you backup power. Actually, when the grid goes down, by law, your system needs to shut down. So solar is useful, but you've got to have the batteries in order to complement that, in order to have that ongoing backup capability. Backup power batteries is a whole nother topic, and we're really not going to cover that in much detail here. We do have some information on our website, sunwork.org, and an article, so you can take a look at it. So that may be useful. But it's also, so the key thing here is if backup power is the most important thing for you, that's the reason, then you want to be talking to an installer that can do both solar and the battery backup at the same time. You can add it later, but it's not quite as efficient or as effective. And just as an example, SunWork does not do battery backup at all. So if that's your main concern, then we're not even an option for you. All right, so the next thing you need to think about once you know why you want to go solar is how much energy do I actually use in my home right now? Because that's what you want to displace with solar. And not only what you're using now, but am I going to reduce it? Have I put in the LEDs? Have I put in all the energy efficient appliances? Am I going to be getting rid of that second refrigerator? Or is somebody going to be moving out of the house, a family member, or maybe somebody's going to be coming into the house? And so you may be increasing your usage. And that can be from a new family member, but it also may be from other steps to electrify your home, like getting an electric vehicle. This is obviously really popular and it actually uses a fair amount of energy. And typically you want to plan for that. So if you're going to get an EV in another year or two, to put in the solar for it, it's much more cost effective to do it at the same time. And I've got a couple examples later on. And of course, as we mentioned, if you're thinking about an electric heat pump, hot water heater, those turn over every 10 to 12 years. So, putting in a few extra panels can be a useful thing in that regard. So understanding why you want to go solar, understanding your usage, and in particular, you're going to want to see, the contractors are going to want to see 12 months of usage so that they understand in a full year cycle how much energy needs to be displaced from that standpoint. Okay, well, let's talk about some of the basic components of a solar system. Well, first thing, of course, is the solar panels that are going to be on your roof. And the solar panels convert the sun's energy into electricity, but it's a certain kind of electricity called DC, or direct current electricity. And so that's obviously a key component, a key cost component. The second component is this thing called an inverter. And that inverter converts the DC energy into AC energy, because AC energy is what all the outlets in your home use. And so that's a really important component of the system. And it does many other things that we'll talk about later. That inverter then sends the energy or gets connected to your service panel, your electric service panel. And sometimes you may need to get that service panel upgraded in order to be able to accommodate the additional solar. this is oftentimes a good time to think about, again, the EV or the other electrification efforts, because if you upgrade that service panel, it can be useful to wire at the same time an extra EV outlet that may be coming, or a 240 volt to your hot water heater area. So, and there are actually some rebates by some of the community choice energy providers to be able to offset that service panel. So this is a good time to do that combination of thinking. The next step is that connects, and it already connects, your service panel connects to your utility meter, which, you know, in theory goes backwards. Of course, they're all digital now, so it decrements, but at any rate, that's what keeps track of your energy, the excess energy being sent back to the grid. And we'll talk a little bit about how you get paid for the solar that you send back to the grid. And the last thing is, as you said, we're connected to the grid, which also means that any excess energy goes back to the utility, but also at nighttime, you get to use energy from the utility. A lot of people instantly think, oh, I've got solar, I don't need the utility anymore. And we're really going to be talking about, you know, grid connected systems. There are off-grid systems, and if you're up in the hills and you don't have any electricity, you're building a new home, you can do that. We're not going to be talking about that today. So here are the basic components: the solar panels, the inverter, and we're going to talk a little bit more about. But before we do that, since we're putting the solar panels on the roof, we want to talk about the roof a little bit. Again, the next thing you want to think about, and the next thing a contractor is going to ask you is, okay, well, tell me about your roof. Is it in good condition? And what they mean by that is, you know, how many years of life is left in it? Ideally, there's going to be 15 years or more, because the solar panels are going to last for 25 years or more. And you don't want to put up your solar and then have to re-roof, you know, a few years later, because that means literally you're going to have the expense of taking the solar off and putting it back on, and that is literally several $1,000s, which you want to avoid if you can. And the other obvious thing, and sometimes it's not so obvious, is you need some unshaded areas. You can't be in a redwood forest, and solar is not gonna work. So, you know, that's a really big factor. If you're heavily shaded, that's going to significantly affect the economics of going solar. The next thing is the type of roof you have, because there are some roofs that are easier. The composition shingle roof, which you can see example of there, the first one, that's the most common type. And for flat roofs, there's something called modified bitumen. Those are relatively easy to install on, and so those are going to be the lower cost installation when you're talking to a contractor. There are a few other types. Standing metal seam roof. These are actually very environmentally friendly, easy to install on, and so that's a great one, as well as a certain type of PVC, you know, membrane roof, which is very, you know, not very common, but and these are the types that SunWork installs on, the easier ones, so our volunteers can, you know, don't have to worry about worrying about the more difficult things. So the other ones that are more difficult, you know, a shake roof, that can be brittle and you can break it. Stone coated steel, you know, you can dent it. So these other ones are more difficult to work on, and you definitely want to find an installer that has had experience and has some references, because, you know, Spanish tile is easy to break, and so you want somebody who knows how to work on that type of environment. There are some types of roofs that installers just won't install on at all, you know, like slate or hardy shake, just because they're so difficult to work on. All right, now we move on to the solar panels, and there are some subtle differences. If you haven't looked at panels, you may have looked at them up on people's roofs and said, oh yeah, that's a panel, but not noticed quite the difference. And it's not a big deal, but it's just useful to know that there are two main types of solar panels, a polycrystalline and a monocrystalline. And the monocrystalline actually are made from like a single cell, an ingot, which gets sliced up. and that's the one on the right-hand side. And you can see that the diamond shapes are where it's actually been cut, whereas on the left, the polycrystalline is made from multiple cells, and it's sort of more spread out. You can tell the difference by the color oftentimes, where one's blue and one's black. If you care about aesthetics, that's great, but it doesn't really change the efficiency. If they're both rated at 16, 17, 18, 19%, that's what you're going to be able to produce. Some people think the monocrystalline have a little bit better reliability. We haven't seen that, but there are theories out there that indicates that that's the case. It's also the case that if you want the highest efficiency, like 22 plus efficiency, you would go with the monocrystalline. That's the only thing that's really available to do that in the very highest. But when you go with that highest efficiency, you're going to pay literally 25% more per kilowatt. And so unless you do want either bragging rights or your roof is small versus how many panels you have, it's typically not worth it, but doesn't mean you can't do it. And then for those that are interested in the aesthetics, you do have a choice of typically a black frame or a clear frame, and most people go with a black frame. There is a 0.01% more higher efficiency on the clear frame because it keeps the panels cooler, and solar panels do better in cool weather or just cool in general. So good to know if you're really fanatic about efficiency, great, go with the clear frame. If you're really a fanatic on aesthetics, or you don't have to be a fanatic, you can just appreciate the aesthetics. There is what's called a black on black panels. And that you can see the difference there, that instead of where the white diamonds are, you actually have a black backsheet. And these are, again, more expensive, but they're gorgeous. They're, or at least some people think they're gorgeous. And obviously a black frame. Almost all the panels now have 25-year power warranty. So there are a few out there that have a 30-year warranty. So these panels will last a long time, but they all will degrade a little bit over time. And so each year they'll lose, maybe 0.5%. And so even the 25-year power warranty means that in 25 years, they'll guarantee at least 80% or 82% of the original specification. So again, some things to be aware of when you're looking at different bids from contractors. Okay, let's move to the inverters. And there are three main types of inverters. One is the central inverter. It's sort of a traditional, goes on the side of the wall. And now it's best for medium and large type installations. There's sort of like a minimum of 5 panels. Most people will get more than 5 panels. We in SunWork, we do 4 or 5. We've done a 3-panel system. But most of them are going to be in the 10 panels, et cetera. Each panels these days are about 350 watts, let's say between 300 and 400 plus watts. The key thing for a central inverter is that it needs to have minimal shade, because there are better options if you have a shaded. So that's another thing. Okay, my roof's got some shade issues. What are my options there, Mike? Well, there's this thing called a micro inverter, really starting out of the Bay Area. Enphase, one of the leading company in this, where you basically have an inverter on every single solar panel. And so it optimizes each solar panel. And so if you've got shade issues, that's fantastic. It really helps minimize the impact. It doesn't eliminate it. It doesn't magically give you more sunlight. You can't use microinverters when you're in the redwood forest. It doesn't create the light, but it helps minimize the impact. So that's really the best time to use it. And they have a very good warranty on them, 25 years. And the other thing is that the monitoring, you actually get to see the energy production at the panel level instead of at the total system level. And again, for techies who like to see that, that's kind of cool. But it's also useful economically, because that way you can easily see whether one panel has an issue or not. Whereas if you lose one panel out of 20, your system's gone down 5%, but you don't know whether it was because it's a little bit dirty or you had shade the other day or what. But if you do have each system with a microinverter, you can tell that. And of course, technology being technology, they say, gosh, you know, there are benefits of the central inverter in terms of cost, but there are benefits to the microinverter. Let's create kind of a hybrid option, which is a central inverter with an optimizer on each panel. SolarEdge is the main manufacturer of these. Sometimes they're called hybrid systems. They are used typically for larger systems because they have a higher minimum number, but they're a very good option for larger systems, especially if they have shade. But you can use a microinverter, it's just going to cost you a little bit more. So those are the three main types of inverters you'll see. As I said, each of them has monitoring that comes with it, which is kind of cool through a secure website. You obviously have to have a Wi-Fi connection, but you can take a look at it month to month, day to day. And again, for the techies, that's kind of cool to check it out. And it can tell whether your systems have changed over time. All right, the next thing to think about, again, sticking with the roof and the panels, is where do I put it in my house? If you've got a roof, do I put it on, you know, the front of my house, the back of my house, the side? Well, where you're going to get the most energy production in this area is the south side. So let's just assume that, say that that's 100% of what can be produced here. The next is in the southwest, followed by the southeast, and then the west, and then the east. And what this analysis looks at is our weather climate here. And since we get fog and low clouds in the morning time, and it's clearer in the afternoon, if you put the solar panels on the west facing side, you're going to get more energy production than on the east facing side. And you can certainly put it on the north or northwest side, but you're going to lose, you know, 25%. So you'll have to put 25% more panels, you know, to put it on the north side. So, you know, this is sort of the order that you look at. The other thing to be realized, we'll have PG&E representative talk about the time of use a little bit, but the economic value also has in play here, because what we just showed right on this slide is the energy production, pure energy production, but you actually get paid more or save more, whichever you want to look at it, for the energy that's produced in the summer afternoons. So it basically increases your value of the western facing solar panels as more than it increases the eastern facing. So you can see it's not a whole lot, but it's a little bit. And with the changing time of use rates, it would probably be increasingly beneficial to have it on the, you know, west and southwest sides. But you can see there aren't, you know, major differences, but it's good to know, you know, you can save, you know, another 4% or more by putting it on the western side versus the eastern side. But if for aesthetic reasons you really want to put it on the east side because you either want to show it off to your neighbors on the front side, or you want to hide it in the back, you know, you're going to be losing some value. Okay, so we're talking about value, and so the economics are important here. And because of the laws in California and in many states, you can actually sell your energy back to the utility provider. And your meter can keep track of this, which is great. And in fact, the law is something called net energy metering. And originally, you actually got compensated for the same value as if you would have purchased it. So in essence, you got the retail rates, but they changed that a few years ago, and it's now called NEM 2 or 2.0 since we're in Silicon Valley. And so it's not quite 100%. You get about 10% less right now. And we'll talk about that a little bit more because that's going to change even further in the future. The other thing to be aware of is that when you go onto solar, you're required to go on a time of use rate. So that's been true for solar for forever. More and more, even if you don't have solar, you're going to be moving to time of use, and you're going to hear from the PG&E representative about that. So that's just good to be aware of. All right. In terms of the economic payback, typically what we see is if you're not super heavily shaded, even just moderately shaded, you're going to see a range of payback times between 4 and say 12 years. And so since the solar panels have a 25-year life, you're going to double or triple your money in essence over that time period. And a system can cost $10,000 to $20,000, again, depending on the size, your energy usage, how much shade, et cetera. But those paybacks are pretty good, because if you look at what's considered a return on investment, that would be from somewhere between 20 to the low of say 5% return on investment for that $10,000 or $20,000, and that's actually after tax return on investment, because you don't pay any tax on what you save, and therefore, if you take a look at what you're getting in CDs, which is way below 3%, 1, 2, 3%. If you look at this as an investment, you're putting in $10,000, $20,000. This can be a very strong investment. So those folks that are looking at it strictly from an investment standpoint, that's going to be an important part to look at. Is okay, what's my return on investment? I don't want all the fancy stuff. I don't need the super aesthetic or super efficient stuff. Or not, but that gives you some kind of idea of what that would provide. There are a couple of caveats here. A couple of cities, Palo Alto and City of Santa Clara, have their own municipal utilities, and so as it stands, they have lower electricity rates, so it's tougher to make the economics work. And on top of that, what they pay you for that solar energy is quite low. So Palo Alto is going to pay 10 cents per kilowatt hour, and they require you to put in a separate meter to actually monitor all the energy that goes back. So the economics in Palo Alto are very weak, and as SunWork as an organization, we don't even install in Palo Alto anymore because of that and other reasons. In Santa Clara, the payback is also quite difficult, close to 4 cents per kilowatt hour. So it doesn't say that you can't do it, but it's not for economic reasons that typically you would install in Palo Alto or Santa Clara. Okay, so going on, the other thing that's important we talked about is your usage going to increase with an EV or heat pump, hot water heater, and not only just adding more panels, but that the solar aspect of it can improve the economics. So of course you can get an EV without getting solar, but if you do get solar and you get an EV or a heat pump hot water heater, then in essence you're able to get even a better return on investment. So just a quick example, if you drove 10,000 miles a year, you'd need about 6 panels to cover that on an annual basis. That would cost you, or you'd save about $750 every year for that, but you need to invest another $2,700. Now these are SunWork prices, so contractors are going to be 25% more than this, but this is ballparking. So in essence, you're going to get, again, for that additional investment, another 3.6 year, 4-year payback. Again, since the life of the solar panels are 25 years, you're going to double, triple your money. So again, when you're looking at an EV, you can say, gosh, I could actually make that even more economic if I got solar. And a similar example for the hot water heater, let's say if you've got 3 people, you would typically add 2 more solar panels. So not a lot of incremental panels. And so by doing it up front, you save having to get another permit, all the overhead costs, et cetera. So it's oftentimes best to do that up front, and then you get to save a bit more as well. And so in this case, you're talking about a 5-year payback on the solar panel investment. So even if you change out the heat pump hot water heater after you get that and it lasts for 10, 12 years, you'll still have the solar panels to be able to provide the electricity. So something to think about as you're looking at home electrification overall. And one of the things that SunWork has on our website is a tool to estimate the savings, not only of the solar, but you can say, oh, I'm going to get an EV and I'm going to get a heat pump hot water heater, and you can play with it and see how many more panels, how much can I save, et cetera. Now, you do have to go through the request a quote process. So you just click on that button or go to that website, sunwork.org/getsolar, and it'll take you to the website. We actually are doing this in conjunction with a Sunnyvale company called Yellowkin. So, and they're actually working with other CCEs, specifically Sonoma right now. So it's kind of a cool tool to be able to figure it out. It has a place to comment in there. So if you're really not interested in solar, just put comments, hey, I'm just checking out the tool. Otherwise, one of our consultants at SunWork will contact you. So it's a useful way to figure things out. Okay, the other thing in terms of timing is there is a federal solar tax credit, and that was actually recently extended. So for this year, 2021, it's 26%, and then in 2022, it's 26%, but then it starts to go down in 2023, and then it goes away for residential in 2024 currently. Who knows what'll happen in the future, but that's one thing to think about. This is a tax credit, not a rebate. And so it directly reduces your taxes. So it's also good if you don't pay taxes, this won't help you, other than you can carry it forward. So more information about this on our website if you have questions about it. There is another thing to keep in mind about timing. We talked about the net energy metering, or NEM, is now currently 2.0, but it is going to move to 3.0, affectionately termed, and that's the CEC, is CPUC, I forget who, but they're looking at that. California is looking at that now. The utilities have their proposals in, and right now the proposals look very bad, but you never know where it's going to end up, but it will certainly be worse than what the current program is. The key thing is that, at least in the past, once you get onto a net energy metering program, once you install your system, then you get to stay on that program for 20 years. So presumably that would happen as we move to NEM 3.0. So, if you're thinking about this, you might want to get solar this year or keep tabs on this NEM 3 so that you get it installed. And because of all these things, there may be a rush by the end of the year to get it. So just be aware, that the installations aren't always, okay, you get it done in a month. It may take 2, 3, 4 months for installation because of a backlog that contractors may have because of this situation of timing. We do have some more purchasing tips that I don't have time to go through. A couple of them that are quite useful. Solar reviews is sort of like the Yelp for solar. So you can see, compare folks on that. Energy Sage, you can actually get really quick bids from various folks, and you can use that URL to get there. Let me see a couple of other things that are useful. Silicon Valley Toxic Coalition has a survey. They do a solar survey of solar panel manufacturers, and so they rate them on their sustainability. And so if you go to that website, you can see that from a few years ago. Just because somebody isn't rated high doesn't always mean that they're bad. It may just mean that they didn't respond. But if they are rated high, it means they're high confident that they're really committed to sustainability, transparency, etc. And oftentimes when they're dedicated to those principles that oftentimes translates into reliability as well. So that can be a useful place to go. And if you are in a low income situation, there is an organization, another nonprofit called Grid Alternatives, great organization, and you can actually get subsidized free solar, but you have to be in specific low income geographies like East Palo Alto, some locations in the East Bay, to be able to utilize that program and basically get free solar. And you can download the whole purchasing guide from our website here at the URL that you see on the page. So we have one final thing, since we are a nonprofit and we have volunteers that help us out. Even in COVID times, we're using COVID protocols, et cetera, to keep some social distance and masking. And since all our work is outdoors, we've been able to continue our work over these times. We have a training session coming up just in 10 days here. This is online, and it really goes into depth on how you install solar panels and some of the safety issues. So if you really want to understand the electrical theory and how to configure things, this is a great way to get in-depth information on that. We don't require you to volunteer any X number of hours or anything. So if you just really want to get into solar and understand it better, this is a good way to do that. Feel free to register and and join us for that. So I've spoken pretty quickly here. I know there'll be questions later, but at this point, I think we can pass it on to the next speaker. Carlos?
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And thanks to Acterra for letting us speak today. So my name is Carlos. I'm the Community Outreach Specialist for Peninsula Clean Energy. And just wanted to touch a little bit on our discounts that we're offering and rebates for people who live in San Mateo County to help electrify their homes. So real quick, I just wanted to do a quick 30-second description of who we are. Everyone knows who PG&E is, but we are the community choice aggregator for San Mateo County. And basically what we do is we provide the electricity from clean energy sources at lower rates than PG&E. And PG&E, they still deliver the energy, they send a consolidated bill, but for the customers, you're automatically helping automatic saving 5%. So basically, until we existed, PG&E they did both portions, and now they only do the delivery. And at the local level, we're doing the generation. So next slide. So that's kind of who we are. That's our core business, is providing electricity for residents and businesses. But we're also trying to help residents to further electrify. So one of those programs is the Power On Peninsula program. So we spoke about solar and all about solar, specifically installing solar, but like mentioned, if you want to still have energy when there are shutdowns, you also need to have a battery storage system. So we're offering $1,250 as an incentive for residents to install solar plus batteries storage systems, and we're partnering with Sunrun on that program. And basically, there's on our website. If you go to our website, there's under residential. Then there's backup power, and you can just fill out a form that Sunrun will then contact you and find out your specifics from there. And these lease agreements that we have with them are designed to save residents money on electricity bills and to help people maintain power when there's a shutoff. But I'll also touch on real quick on our website, we have an all electric homes page that has a number of things like induction cooktops and other stuff that you can learn about. Other rebates we're sort of an aggregator of rebates and that places where you can learn about switching to an all electric home and different appliances. So yeah, that's all I was going to mention today, but thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Carlos. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. And thank you as well, Mike. We really appreciate all that you granted us of your knowledge for this presentation. We will be revisiting the questions at the Q&A really shortly. Let me just get started with this screen share. Okay, Jessica, you're welcome to talk about PG&E and time of use now. Thank you.
Great, thank you all. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
You can? Okay, fantastic. Thank you. My name is Jessica Chancellor, and I'm here from Pacific Gas and Electric Company to share some important information with all of you. You can go to the next slide. And the next one. Okay. So a couple key items that I want to touch on today is rate options. I want to make sure that you all know that you have a choice when it comes to your rate plans. And I'll get into the specific types of rate plans that we have available for our residential customers. And then I also want to touch on programs that will potentially be able to assist you, as well as information regarding updating your contact information and language preference. So let's talk a bit about electric rate plans. When it comes to electric rate plans, we understand that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. People have different sizes of their homes, literally meaning the square footage is different from one home to the next. Also, the number of people residing in a home can vary as well. And for those reasons, the amount of energy that's used can be very different across really the entire state of California. In our territory specifically, the three types of rate plans that we have available for customers is one, our time of use rate plans. And what that means is that it doesn't just matter when you use your energy, but how much you use your energy. So you are billed based on those two items. And then we have a tiered rate plan, which means that the more you use, the more you would pay. So it doesn't matter when you actually use your energy, but just the total amount of energy that you use. And then we also have electric vehicle and battery storage rate plan options. With those rate plans, a customer who might have an electric vehicle or maybe a Tesla battery storage, those may be a better rate option for those customers based on the way they plan on using their energy. Now, rates are super complicated. Inherently, it's not something that we usually dive into too much in explaining rates because it's a lot to grasp. But what I can refer you to today is that we have a rate comparison tool that is available online for customers, and it takes all the guesswork out of how to determine what is the best rate plan for you and your household. So if you go online to pge.com/rate choices, what you'll find there is a rate comparison tool that will give you a rate plan comparison analysis telling you an estimated annual cost for each one of your eligible rate plans. Now, the really great thing about this is that the analysis, it is basing this estimated annual cost on how you've already been using your energy over the past year at your residence. So it's going to take into consideration how much energy you're using, what time of day you're using it, and it's going to give you an estimated annual cost for each one of the rate plans that you can potentially sign up for. So do that today. Don't wait, and make the best rate plan choice for you and your household today. Next slide. Okay, so contact information is key with PG&E. We need to make sure that the important safety messages that we need to get out to our customers is being received. Not only received at the best contact number, but also in what language preference our customers are looking to receive it in. So we do have ability to make sure those changes are in place for you. You have to simply either go online to pge.com, let us know what language preference you would like, also update your contact information, or you can give us a call in our contact centers to do that as well at 1-800-743-5000. So make sure you do that today, and we can get you the information to whatever contact number is best for you. Next slide. Okay, so we do have a few programs that may be able to assist you, and I'm going to cover some information briefly about these. Ultimately, if you go online to pge.com, we have different programs available there, but a couple of the ones I want to highlight today is our CARE and our FARA program. You can go online to pge.com/CARE FARA for more information and also to sign up. You can also give us a call in our contact center to do that as well. Now, these two programs, these are income-based. So if you are a customer that's qualifying based on your income, then you can easily be enrolled today and you can start receiving those benefits on your next bill cycle. There is income guidelines for each one of them. The CARE program does give at least a 20% discount. It gives 20% on gas and approximately 35% on electricity. And then we have FARA. And FARA provides an electric-only discount of 18%, but it does allow for a little larger income allotment and also is for families of 3 or more. Next slide. Okay, we do have an energy savings assistance program as well. This one is income-based. And with this one, the great thing about it is that you can get assistance from this program, whether you own or rent your home. So in order to determine if you qualify, you can go online to pge.com/ESA for energy savings assistance. And the types of benefits that you can receive with this program would be caulking, weather stripping, things that will make your home more energy efficient. So in turn, you would use less energy, and in turn, your bill would be lower. So if you think you might qualify for that, then please go online or give us a call in our contact center, and we can assist you with understanding if you're eligible and how to get started with that. We also have a medical baseline program. And with this program, we give customers more usage at a lower rate, in turn to make sure that your bill is lower. So the idea here is that if you have a situation where there's somebody residing in your home who uses some kind of equipment or more gas or electricity for a medical need, then we can give you more usage for whatever that commodity is, whether it's gas or electricity, and then in turn your bill would be lower because of that. An example might be the use of a sleep apnea machine, or possibly somebody needs extra heating because they have arthritis, or possibly there is a use of oxygen at the home. So there's multiple different reasons as to why someone might be able to qualify for that. And until June 30th, there's no doctor signature currently required in order to enroll in that. We have relaxed quite a bit of the sign-up efforts and enrollment in that during the COVID shelter-in-place situation. We expect that enrollment process will start to go back a little bit more towards what the requirements were previously, which would require a doctor to sign off. But as of right now, until at least June 30th, there is no doctor signature required. So please go online and sign up for that today if there's someone in your household that is eligible for those benefits. And you can go to pge.com/medical baseline. Next slide. Okay, so what I want to leave you with here today, I know I spoke pretty quickly because I wanted to get across all of this important information in a limited period of time, but I wanted to make sure that you all know A, you have options when it comes to your electric rate plan. So please go online today to pge.com/rate choices and run that personalized rate comparison to determine what is in fact the best rate plan for you. Although we will have a time of use transition that may be coming your way very soon, this still doesn't change the fact that you have a choice. So you can choose to decline that transition, or you can change. If you're already on a time of use rate plan, you won't even be included in it. But just be aware that there will be notifications sent to you in advance so that you know that you have options when it comes to your rate plan. And you can change your rate plan up to 2 times a year. Secondly, make sure that you have your contact information and language preference up to date so that we can get you the important information to you in the way you want to receive it. And then lastly, we have many programs that may be able to assist you. So please go online today to these helpful web links and see if in fact you can qualify for any of these and enroll. And if you need assistance, please don't hesitate to give us a call on our contact center. And then if there are additional questions that come to mind about rate options, the time of use transition that's currently underway, or any of our programs, you're welcome to reach out to me directly as well at jessica.chancellor@pge.com. So thank you again for your time today. I'm on the line for the rest of the webinar if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Jessica. So this concludes our portion for PG&E. We will now welcome the Q&A questions coming in. Really quickly, I do want to say our next 4th workshop in the Green at Home series is on May 11th. We will be discussing EV charging, so please stay tuned for that webinar. And let me open up the chat and read through some of those questions that we had. If we don't get to answer all of them, we will be following up with emails as well. So first question I saw was from Terry. She asked, what is the typical PG&E price increase per year?
I'd have to look back historically over the past several years, really, to get a better understanding of what the actual price increases have been. I wouldn't say that there's one typically, like a percentage annually, but I can check with our rates department and see what they have to say in terms of, price increases or increases that occur throughout the year. So I'll get back to you with more information that Brianna can share out with the attendees today.
Great. I took note of Terry's name so that we can forward him her the information.
Thank you.
Next question is, what are the pros and cons of different panels? Terry, I believe you asked that before Mike discussed the different options.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Terry. A. Chin asked warranty differences. Mike, A. Chin, did you want to elaborate on that question a little bit? I think he or her might have left the call.
So in terms of warranty on panels, the biggest difference is oftentimes you'll have a 25-year warranty, but then it'll be a percentage, as I mentioned. So like 80% of the original specifications, or sometimes it's 82.5%. So some of them have slightly better ways, some of them have like linear, and some of them are more stair step every few years. So there are minor tweaks to that. The biggest difference is whether it's a 30-year warranty on that. There are things called product warranties, which is more aesthetic if things don't affect the power output, but it just the glass surface looks off. And those are typically in the 10-year time frame. So if that's important to you, you can take a look at those. Those are typically in the 10, 12 years versus the power warranty, which is typically 25 to 30 years.
Great, thank you so much, Mike. our question from Anna just came in recently. Why is it beneficial for PG&E to offer multiple rate plans?
I wouldn't say that it's beneficial per se, but I would say that, as I said before, there is a very clear understanding that customers use energy differently. Not everybody uses it the same way, and for that reason, we want to make sure that customers have options in the rate plan that would be best for their household and the way they use energy. So it's not necessarily a benefit for PG&E, but
Jessica,
rather
you're muted.
for customers. Okay.
Jessica, this is Mike. I can give
Can
an
you hear me?
opinion on that as well.
I was able to hear you too, Jessica.
Oh, you did
Yeah,
hear me?
Yes, I heard you. Did everyone else hear her?
Sorry, that was
I
my.
did, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
the audio was fine.
Yeah, we heard it fine.
Problem. Thank you. Well, thanks for
Okay.
answering that, Jessica. The next
Yeah.
question is, will the PG&E paying the retail rate for the energy going back to grid from solar panel? Is there any guidance on replacing repairs if the inverter or panel fails after 10 years? I believe the installation warranty is 10 years.
So it sounds like there are two questions there. Did I get that
Yes.
right? Let me
Lokesh,
take
do you mind? Oh, go ahead.
Let me take the second one first. Yes, the inverter warranties, the central inverters are typically 10 to 12 years. And then the micro inverters are the pieces that are on the solar panels, like the DC optimizers, are typically 25 years. And so over a 25-year life, you may need to replace the central portion of that. So you need to be aware of that. It's really useful to extend the life of those components by putting the part that's on the wall in a cool, dry place. So ideally in the garage, or a place that's covered on the north side would be ideal. But if it's on the south side, someplace that's covered to extend its life. So I just replaced my inverter that is 20 years old. It was still working, but I upgraded and it had more features, etc. But that's it. What was the first question on that two-parter?
Yeah, the first question asked, will the PG&E paying the retail rate for the energy going back to grid from solar panel? Lokesh, did you want to clarify that question?
So I just wanted to understand, like, what will be the rates that PG&E will be paying, like, if the energy is going back to the grid.
So I can take that, Jessica, if you want me to.
I would say that it's not a standard. It really depends on what rate plan that you're on. We do have customers who are on NEM 1.0, which means that they've had solar for some time. And those customers do not have to have a time of use rate. They have a legacy advantage there, meaning that they're allowed to be on a tiered rate plan and are receiving a higher credit for the energy that does go back to the grid. Any new solar customers, as Mike was saying, they are required to have a time of use rate, and they're called NEM 2.0 or complex NEM. And there are variation of time of use rates that you can sign up for, which would help to determine how much money you would be receiving back for any energy that go back to the grid.
Just to elaborate on that, one of the other differences between NEM 1 and NEM 2 is that you, instead of getting full retail value, you get full retail minus the non-bypassable charges, which is about 2.3 cents per kilowatt. So whatever your rates are, basically are reduced by 2.3 cents per kilowatt hour for what you send back right now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mike and Jessica. Henry also is inquiring about the NEM rate scheduling. So perhaps in the future, for the next workshop on May 11th, we can dive a little deeper into net energy metering, or if not, we can link everybody to more resources in the follow-up email. because it is a little complex. By the way, everybody, it is 3 o'clock, so feel free to hop off if you have other commitments you need to attend. We'll finish up these last 2 questions really quickly, and I want to say thank you for joining us. Again, remember our next workshop is May 11th. Thank you, everybody. So Rain asked, do we need the inverter if we just want to store the energy in a local battery?
This sort of assumes that you're getting to have both solar and a battery. And so if you have solar, you definitely need an inverter. And in fact, if you're having a battery, either the battery has its own separate inverter built in, or you need a solar inverter that also acts as has a capability to talk to the battery. So short answer is yes, you do.
Thank you, Mike. And last question, Mike, what features did the new inverter offer versus 20 years old?
So it actually, I had an SMA and it has a better web interface, number one. Number two, it actually was able to take multiple roof angles. It was more efficient by an extra %, and it was able to add the ability to monitor each panel separately. So it added a significant number of benefits over the 20 years.
Really quickly again, Rain is asking, are Tesla solar tiles a viable option?
So Tesla solar tiles, that's basically when you replace your entire roof with solar. I mean, that's the shorthand. So first you need to be willing to, or your roof needs to be willing to be replaced. So from that standpoint, if you're going to be replacing your roof and you want to put solar on, then the Tesla solar roof is certainly an option. It can be a more expensive option. I mean, it's a beautiful integrated roof, gorgeous. I have a friend who has it and he loves it. But you have to look at the economics. So definitely compare, getting a new roof and adding the solar. I think the aesthetics are better with a Tesla integrated roof. So there is that, and they have, I think it's a lifetime warranty. So, it's a quote unquote better warranty on it. So it's certainly a viable option if you're interested in getting your entire roof done at the same time.
Great, thank you so much. So this concludes the Q&A portion. Thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Jessica, for extending your time to Acterra. I wish everybody a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks much.